Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's second half. Before we get into it, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help, and it matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? Alright guys, tonight's second half, I have got some terrifying Dogman, terrifying crawler encounters, and some terrifying videos to share with you. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get into it. Tonight's first encounter. I was hiking along the Ausable River in Michigan during the summer of 1999. This is in the counties of Oscoda, Elkanah, and Losco. I remember one of my most scariest encounters with the wilderness. While walking east down along the river, around 1 hour prior to dusk, I heard what my ears to be a wolf howl. I have seen wolf prints and I've seen wolves near my home in Long Lake, Michigan, but never heard a howl so deep and almost human-like in my life. I got spooked and set up camp and made a fire larger than most due to my fear. At dusk, I heard the howling was getting closer, directly across the river. I had heard stories of a wolfman from native powwows and in my family folklore, covering the whole United States. But never have I personally seen what I saw that night or the next day. That night, after eating beef barley stew from a canned good collection, I'd laid down by the fire with my huge folding knife closely gripped by my chest. I was watching and listening to the surrounding woodline for 30 minutes or so. When the average night noises stopped, to me, it meant two things. Either something had spooked the local wildlife, and that made me very uneasy. I looked away from the fire and shot the fire away from my eyes using my unarmed hand. I looked across the river, which was only about 100 meters across from my fire, and that's when I saw the most unnerving sight ever. On the sand was a creature standing, maybe larger than the average sow black bear, with black fur, large long skull, and yellow reflective eyes like a wolf. I closed my eyes and hoped I was imagining things, and then it gave out a howl again. I opened my eyes, and it ran back up the bank and disappeared into the night. As it ran, it did not run on all fours like a bear or a wolf. Unlike the local Bigfoot, it was fully upright, like a human or a primate. I was so scared that I slept the rest of the night in a tree, about 20 feet off the ground. It took me 3 hours and praying to ease my fear so I could finally fall asleep. Today's second encounter. I live in South Georgia. I leave work at around 10:45 p.m., riding my bike for 30 minutes to get home on a dimly lit road. Before I take that long ride home, I usually stop at my girlfriend's house, which is around a minute's ride from my work. On one particular night, my phone died once I reached her house. As I was about to leave, we both had this feeling of dread. She wished me a safe ride, and I began to ride home, just a little ways down the road. The light on the front of my bike died, which meant I was flying mostly blind. I stopped and turned on some small little lights on my spokes of the front tires so cars could see me for safety reasons. I knew the road to my house very well, so I was not too worried about my light going out at the time. My neighborhood sits behind a gas station and a restaurant with a spacious parking lot on the other side of the road. Another important detail is that the sidewalk is on the side of the restaurant. As I was riding very close to the entrance of my neighborhood, I saw a large group of people standing in that parking lot. I rode by not saying a word. I was startled when I heard one of them yell something that sounded like, "Hey!" It was very forceful. I began to bike faster after hearing this. I didn't even look both ways or stop in front of the road. Rather, I just barreled through to the other side. As I looked behind me as I was entering my neighborhood, I was horrified to see that the crowd of people were all chasing me on bikes. Terrified, I sped up even more through my neighborhood. I was very scared because I essentially had a beacon on me with the spoke lights on my bike. My neighborhood doesn't have many straight roads, so I tried to lose them as best I could. I am a very competent biker, so I managed to turn some corners very fast, and every time I looked back, I saw less of them chasing me. After making a very precocious turn onto one of the straight long roads in the neighborhood, I rode as fast as I could. My house is only one turn away from the end of the road, so I tried to book it to the end. When I was a decent distance down the road, I took one last look behind me and I was horrified. There was this huge creature chasing me. It was very lanky and tall. My guess was around 7 feet. It had a pale face. It also had very pronounced and long knuckles. I couldn't make much more detail other than that, but I definitely remember its pale white skin. It was running at a faster pace than I had ever seen anything go. I was going the fastest I had ever gone on my bike, yet it was still catching up to me on foot. It looked like it was exerting itself a lot by running that fast. It was leaning heavily into its run, and its arms were moving quickly beside it with its hands into fists. I let out an audible yelp due to the immense terror I was feeling at that point. I turned the final time onto a smaller street, and then turned into my driveway, jumped off the still-moving bike, and threw open the door, which was luckily unlocked. I ran inside. When my mom went to see what was up, I told her there was something chasing me outside. She ran to go and lock the door and heard a noise that sounded like someone saying, "Hey," outside. My mom later reported it to the police, and they patrolled the neighborhood at night for about 2 weeks. It was recently that my girlfriend and I were talking about this again, and we realized that the thing was running faster than any human possibly could. She suggested that it could have been a crawler. Alright guys, tonight's first video is what appears to be a person going out and checking on their fowl, whatever is in their yard, either chicken or duck, must be making a commotion. He kind of pans his camera over to the side and sees what could possibly be a crawler. I'm not going to make any decisions on it. I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Check it out.
What's the matter with you? 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 Matter with you?
It's definitely creepy. You can see its eyes. That's why I played it a couple times for you guys. You can see its eyes at the end there, kind of peering out. I wish there was more to the video. Unfortunately, that's all I could find. Now let's get on to today's third encounter. Today's third encounter. This occurred in September of 2016 while visiting West Grand Lake, Maine. I had been playing with the dogs outside around dusk. The sun was below the tree line, but there was still plenty of light to see by, and I went in to use the bathroom. My husband had been fiddling with a guitar, but wandered into the bathroom looking like he wanted to say something. He was pale and sweaty, kind of staring into space, so I was naturally concerned. He wouldn't tell me what was wrong at first, But I finally got it out of him that he had seen a huge black wolf walk by the window. I told him he must have seen a bear, knowing that there are not supposed to be any wolves around here, and that the window was too high for any canine on four legs to walk in front of. He said no, but whatever it was, I didn't want the dogs messing with it, so I ran back outside. They were still wrestling in the side yard, oblivious, so it was easy to get them back in. And then I had to look around. I didn't see any animal or sign, but noted that the window was even higher than I had thought. When I went back in, my husband described what he had seen was black, bipedal, and a wolf. He said the snout and ears were wolf-like, but it had yellow eyes that reminded him more of a cat. I measured the window, and the bottom of it is 6 foot off the ground. So for anything's head and torso to pass by it, from where he was standing, the animal would have been 7 feet tall. One of our dogs is tall enough if he stood on his hind legs, but we've never seen him do that on his own. And he's blue-gray with floppy ears and brown eyes. There are not any huge black circus dogs on my road that I know of. My husband is very skeptical of anything not accepted by the scientific community, but still insists that it was not a black bear. He concluded that he must have hallucinated the whole thing. 2 weeks later, on the same time of day, my husband saw the same animal. This time, he was close to the window and the animal was further away, running out through a small stand of red pine. He still doesn't believe it was real, even after seeing it a second time. And then, not sure if this is related, about a week after that I was gardening and my husband came back calling for me, very shook up. He said he was sitting in his computer chair and thought I was standing over his shoulder. He said when he looked up there was a black form. Like a shadow person, he jumped and it was gone, but it scared the wits out of him. He wanted me to come inside and keep an eye on him because he was afraid that it meant he was going to have a stroke or something. Tonight's final video clip is a father and son out of Russia who catch what appears to be a Bigfoot running through the wilderness. It's very interesting and kind of thought-provoking, if you ask me. I'm wondering if it's real or not. What do you guys think? It is very interesting. I'm not sure. Definitely cool, though. Now, on to tonight's final encounter. This is a rather short encounter because I was riding in a car and basically saw it and rode past it. I've been past this site 100 times before, but I've never gotten out and walked around the area. Maybe I should. The encounter has changed my life. It was evening and my family and I were coming back from Chesapeake Beach, Maryland, from having dinner with my brother, mom, and dad. I was 15 or 16 years old, and I was in the back right passenger seat chilling with my brother. Riding along, I'm just looking out the window, and there's this little road that merges onto the main road from the left. So as we merge, we pick up a little speed. We're going 25 to 30, and you have to cross a little bridge, and it's bumpy. So we slow down to about 20 miles an hour. Once we did that, I looked up ahead, and about 75 yards ahead, I saw something standing on the wood edge, off to the right a little. But it was exactly at the edge of the woods. It had both arms on the tree, just standing there. meaning its right arm was on the tree about shoulder height and its left arm was on the tree about shoulder height, so its arms were basically spread out with its hands on the trees. It was 7 feet tall, maybe taller. It had a wolf-like face, only larger, like a dire wolf from Game of Thrones. It had really broad shoulders, very muscular arms, a barreled chest, and it narrowed the rest of the way down to the abdomen area. It was dark brown, and the hair was medium length. I didn't get a great look at its legs because it locked eyes with me. It knew I saw it, and it saw me. I saw it a good distance up ahead and was like, "What is that standing on the wood's edge?" As soon as I said that to myself, I locked eyes with it. I saw it for a good 10 to 15 seconds because of how far up ahead I would noticed it moving around and how slow we were traveling. Its eyes followed mine the entire time. It took my breath when I first realized what I was looking at, and my first thought was, "God, that's ugly." It had very pointed features, and it didn't look like a Bigfoot, but an actual werewolf. A lot of people call it Dogman, but I'm more inclined to say it was a werewolf. I said out loud to my family, "Did you guys see that?" Obviously, they were like, "See what?" Another thing, this was in southern Maryland, where there are no bear or other large animals, but I asked my family over and over if they saw it, and they started getting annoyed with me. I told people over the years, but I was only ridiculed and teased about what I had seen, so I stopped. That's my encounter. My family still doesn't believe me either, and most people I talk to about it think I'm crazy or lying, so I rarely tell anyone about it, but it was real. It was there. Alright guys, and that is tonight's second half. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Getting ready for the interview with a gentleman named Robert, and he is going to share with us his experience with a Dogman pup that I guess he had raised from the time it was young till, I guess, older juvenile. I'm not really sure. I haven't heard the story, but I'm looking forward to it. That'll be tomorrow. May the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that we call life.